They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
And everything else in between.
Yes, welcome back
Welcome back.
to another episode of Daddy and Son. We are so sorry we have been away for a while. This is 2024. We're going to have changes to this show.
But we're still here.
We're still here and we're going through changes. New sound bites, new feel, new outlook, new just an overall, like, we're gonna give that makeover, that we're gonna give the show that BBL.
That's right. That's Alex talking, and I'm Norm.
So with that being said, we're gonna actually have, as you know, this show is supposed to be put out every 2 weeks. And we've been off for a hot minute. I have been doing a fair bit of traveling, quite more than the
man
average
with the frequent
person
flyer miles, yes. The frequent flyer mile traveler. But we're back.
And Norm has been norming. So now that we are back, we have kind of listened to you. We have gotten listener feedback. And we have decided that we are going to take turns producing each week. So that way you can even get a flavor of each host and what each host is about, how we, or what a star's like. And then you can sound off in the comment section. Who is your favorite, daddy or son?
Now, just so you know, it's Norm's turn to produce this week. But of course, Alex has done all of the talking for 2 minutes. But
Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
So nothing has really
So,
changed.
well,
has it? Anyway, folks, we just want to say hello again. We're here, two old friends for over 10 years, right, Alex?
Yes.
We live in Toronto, great city. If you're ever here, make sure you enjoy yourself. Today, we want to talk about dating apps, aka sex apps. So what we'll do is...
Sex apps?
Well, now, we'll get into what people do when they get on them, what they like about them, what they don't like about them.
All right.
One of the things we're going to talk about is what's your favorite question? What's the question you least like being asked? Because there's always questions. And then maybe some tips that might make your experience perhaps a little better the next time you're on one. Assuming, of course, you always have a good experience, but we can help you make it even better. How does that sound?
Okay.
All right. Well, I know what people these days, the familiar ones are Grindr and Adam, and there's Squirt, there's Jack. There's a whole bunch of them out there. They all pretty much operate the same way. There's usually a basic level. And then if you want a little bit more features, access to a few more men, a few more places, you start paying money, right? And some of us, like me, are tight, and we don't tend not to invest very much money in these things. Frugal, here we go.
Tight.
But, I'm going to tell you, as a boomer, I started to use these things back in the late 90s. Does anybody know what IRC means?
No, I'm stumped there.
Uh-oh.
You got me there.
Sonny Boy doesn't know IRC in the late 90s, Internet Relay Chat. Text only. It was basically like a message board, and you would join, and you would start picking a channel or a station that you wanted to participate in, and you would start exchanging information. If you liked the look of the guy's handle, bingo, you'd message that person. You didn't trade voicemails. You didn't trade pictures. None of that initially. There was none of that. You had
What do you mean by initially? So you did get to the trading pictures part?
Well, what you could do would be to, if you had a photograph of yourself, you could scan it and then email it to that person. Literally, you might take a few days to find out what the person looked like. Meanwhile, you've had a conversation with them for 4 or 5 days and think, I don't think that's my type anymore. But anyway, thank you. But that was the old days. Of course, nowadays you can do just about anything. You can sing a song and it can be in somebody else's living room in no time.
Yeah.
I'm not inviting you to sing, Alex, unless you want to.
Oh, Jesus. I would have you know, I have a very beautiful voice, but go on.
Well, anyway, what we should talk a little bit about today is, and anyway, what's your thoughts on dating apps these days? Any introductory thoughts or?
Well, you know what? I think different apps are for different things.
Well put. Yes.
And it's not for everyone. I know for myself, because of who I am and what I do for a living, as an example, I can't be on certain apps. And even on apps that I can be on, I have to be very conscious of my intention. I think a lot of people, especially people who have gripes with apps, I don't have any gripes with apps. Like, apps are apps. Like,
gripes with apps or gripes with apps?
Gripes with apps. Like, apps are apps, people are people, and people, I oftentimes think they don't compartmentalize the difference between what is reality, or, as a close person in my life has said, a wise man said, IRL versus, okay, what is real life? You know, what is IRL versus what is online life?
IRL?
In real life. IRL.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
In real life. And
It's
a lot
like
of people,
IRC.
we can't separate the two. But I also think the dating app, or the worlds of dating app, has evolved
Yes.
to a degree of, especially post-COVID, that it's
They're out there. There's so many of them now.
there are so many of them now. We're going through a boom
Yes.
of brand new apps, not only just in the LGBTQ space, but also in the,
There's a lot of co-ed ones now.
yes,
Yeah.
apps for swingers, apps for threesomes, apps for
what's that one?
sides.
Sorry, we'll talk about that later. I heard of one.
That's a whole different podcast.
I heard of one yesterday. Sniffies. That's an Apple one.
You heard about that yesterday?
Well, okay, guys.
Well, those to be
Some of
be
us are a little
frank,
more on top of things than others, as you know.
that's my business. My business is to be in other people's business.
But why are people using apps, do you think? What's the attraction of them?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna throw that back at you. Why do you? Because I mean, first and foremost, this is your week.
Well,
But
no, wait a minute. Just
wanna
because I'm
know-
producing doesn't mean I have to do all the talking. Which I can assure you folks is not going to happen. But anyway, well, look, one thing I think
Hear
is,
the shade I have to, the shade I got to
shade.
deal with.
By the way, Alex was the first person that introduced me to that expression a few years ago. Do you remember that? Shade. Yes. I said, we've known each other a while. You know how people used to go out in the, well, they didn't, you might not know this, but, people are social animals. And in, years ago, 30, 40, 100 years ago, people would go to the town square and kind of mingle and look around and see who was out. That's really what an app is. It's a way of just, often they'll say, what are you looking for? Why are you here? I just want to see who's out and about.
Yeah.
Or as the American, who's out and about. I mean, sorry, folks. It's a way of occupying time. It's usually a filler when you're doing something else and you got 10 minutes. Oh, I'm going to check who's on Adam or who's on Grindr. Have I got a message? And your heart's beating fast, and then bingo, it's all empty. And okay, we're back to whatever we were doing before then. It's basically people watching. It's the social expression of who we are.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, everything that we do on dating apps, we can do IRL. Whether that's last call in real life.
Okay, IR. Oh, this is an expression.
Or whether if it's last call. And for those of you who don't know what last call is, no, it's not when you're at the bar, not when you're at the pub, not when you're at the club, and they're like, it's last call for drinks. Last call is when you are leaving the pub, when you're leaving the club, and you're outside for a fag, or just outside just posing.
Outside for a cigarette.
It's right,
Yes.
for a cigarette, and people are walking by, and
We're out for fags anyway. Aren't we?
I mean, audience, if you didn't know where you were, it's called Daddy and Son. Get into it. And you're looking at, This is the last call. This is my last time to grab someone to go home for my hookup. So, or the last time to meet someone to secure, a coffee date for tomorrow morning. That's the last call. Everything that we do on apps, we can do in IRL, and we're gonna get into that. We are gonna get into that.
Well, we used to do that before we had the internet. I mean, when I wanted to meet somebody, I got on a telephone or I went to a bar.
I was born in the information age. So.
Well, not every one of our listeners was, including myself. And I've had to learn a lot of the information age techniques and habits that are very common to folks who are younger. But, I got to tell you, I look at it as basically entertainment most of the time. I'm not looking for a hookup. Very seldomly I'm looking for a hookup. Most of the time, I'm just interested to see who's out there. I don't know how many people actually look at it that way. I think it depends.
I'm not me.
All right.
I'm going to be honest, not me. I used to. I really used to. I don't know if maybe I've become jaded.
So what is it? What brings you to them?
I read, actually I read something, an article from research that was done on dating apps, particularly Grindr was the subject of this research.
Oh.
And it showed that 75% of people, queer friendships that came out of, queer relationships, that came out of Grindr ended in friendships.
Right.
That means
Yes.
that 70% of the connections that you make with someone on Grindr is bound to turn into a friendship. And I found that to be rather interesting because I do know people who are like that. That has not been my reality. But because has not been my reality, when I go on dating apps, as an example, not Grindr, because I can't use Grindr because they're Chinese owned, is when I particularly go on dating apps or hookup apps, I look at it as hookup. In fact, I have written on my profile verbatim, if I'm online, I'm looking for now. And if
you see a lot of that.
Yeah, yep. If I'm online, I'm looking for now. And if you're not looking for now, message me when you're looking. No, do not message me if you have no pictures. Do not message me if you're down low. And I put that clearly.
That's good stuff. I like seeing that
on my profile because
I like seeing that.
I have gotten to the point where
you don't want to waste your
people
time
in your life are the people who waste your
time. Right on.
They are the most dangerous people out there. The people who are good, the people who are okay, the people who know what they want, the people who know that they're horny and they come online and they want some sex and that's all they're looking for now.
And if you're not looking for that, you skip over that profile. And you save yourself the effort of contacting.
Exactly.
And I save you
or the girl's favorite saying, what are you looking for?
Oh, that's my worst favorite question.
I hate it.
I hate that question. Do you hate that one too?
Oh my God. It grinds my gears.
Oh.
The worst thing you can ask me, what am I looking for? I mean, what are you talking about?
What
am I looking for? My keys?
Usually I say, how about a picture?
It's just strange. It's like some of the most mundane conversations you can have. And sorry, I don't want to get into like a whole rant.
I don't like that question. I don't like that question from someone that says very little on their profile and doesn't have a picture. So I simply say, when they say, what are you looking for? I say, how about a picture?
How are we able to communicate?
Exactly.
The
that
basic
is.
Foundations of being social mammals, as being human beings, even if you were not online. Let us say you were in the club. There must have been a reason why you've approached that person, just as how there's a reason why I have my picture on my profile and I have taken the time to flush with information about what I want and what I need, why you, as someone who have decided to be completely anonymous, have decided to come and have a conversation with me.
So how do you respond to that question when you know that there's not enough information?
And that's the thing. I used to.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
Okay.
I used to, but I don't. And it goes back to what I originally said. The worst people in life are the people that waste your time. The people that carry you around in circles. The people that are prepared. They came understanding the assignment. Those are the people you need to engage with.
How about if it's somebody who you really like their profile and or their picture and they say, What are you looking for? I sometimes say, I was actually looking for somebody like you.
Slick.
That often gets
Slick.
some very interesting responses.
Mm.
Now, you made a comment a minute ago, Alex. Good point. 75% of or 70% of the connections people make on Grindr result in friendships. Let's talk about what a connection is. Connection isn't somebody you chat with and move on to somebody else. A connection is usually what? Exchange of a phone number, exchange of a name. How do you define a connection? Because I've talked to, I would say my ratio of success on Grindr of people that I talk to and people that become friends is maybe something like 4 or 5%. So there's a number. So we need to talk about what a connection is. And connection can simply be, I really clicked with this person. We did exchange phone numbers or emails, and we plan to see each other again sometime for whatever purpose.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can believe that 70% of those result in a friendship.
Absolutely. At this, I'm going to be frank. I have a policy norm. And that policy is...
Alex App's policy, AAP, coming to you
I love that.
Coming to you from downtown Toronto.
AAP. This is my AAP, folks. Moving forward, that's exactly what we're calling it. So my AAP is similar to my annual inventory, clean up my number list. I told you. I put a spreadsheet. So if this is probably about episode 2 or 3, go back. This is a podcast. You can always do that if you missed that episode. But this is similar to that. And for me, it's if after 2 to 3 days, depending on how I feel, if after 2 to 3 days,
there's been no contact,
there has been minimal contact, or there has been no initiation
or response or enthusiasm
to take this on offline, meet up in person, do what you came online to do.
Yes.
Then
we don't click.
I'm getting
delete.
Delete.
Absolutely.
Delete.
And that's probably, we're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of good practices, but absolutely. And I have to admit, if I went through my Grindr, I've forgotten who 95% of these people are. I've no idea when I spoke to them, or if I spoke to them,
or what the conversation was about.
I usually have those with me. But anyway, if I have them there, the conversation is there. I mean, if it's
well, that's fair enough. If you want to keep inventory,
but usually it's 2 or 3 lines and then nothing. Those should be scrubbed. Absolutely, makes sense.
You see, but for me, as someone with a photographic memory, I know the moment I see your picture, or the moment I start to decipher your vernacular, if you change the picture, I know exactly who you are. And then it's a no from me. In the words of Mama Maya Angelou, when you show me who you are, believe you the first time.
Yes.
The
first impression is always the most. The first impression is always the most reliable.
And
I don't have the same gift that you do for photographic memory, because I'm continually getting names, locations, and handles mixed up, and I've, on more than one occasion, embarrassed myself by calling somebody so and so.
Who are you again?
Or vice versa. You talk to somebody the night before, and they have no idea who you are, what you talked about. I mean, it happened to me this morning, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So I simply did a print screen, flipped it back, and that was the last I heard from
But that's exactly why my AAP is, and if I could have unlimited blocks, block everybody. Call me Blockisha.
You are such a social animal, aren't you?
Listen, it's social animal. I do not reuse toilet paper, Norm. I think that's a principle. That's an AAP in life that we can all get behind. We all don't reuse Kleenex. We don't reuse our toilet paper. So why should we recycle old conversations and misconnections that we have in dating apps?
Well, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about what do you find satisfying about them, and what do you like and not like about your experience on dating apps?
Drink of the day.
We have to have a martini while we do these things, because you know what? We have fun doing these. We really enjoy this, and we want to be here to not only inform but entertain. And we want to hear from you folks. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear suggestions for other topics. Because, Alex and I are always kicking around ideas. And yet we talk to our friends and we get ideas from them. But we want to hear ideas from our listeners.
We're always
as well.
kicking around, period.
Kicking around.
That's how
That's
this
an old
all
soccer
came
term.
about.
By the way, boomers and millennials do have different lingo. We talk differently about things that, anyway. So what I want to talk about now is kind of like what's the value add of these things in our life? Why do we like this? What is it that how do we feel after spending 10 or 15 minutes on one of these apps? And by the way, no one spends 5 minutes on one app alone. I don't know about you guys, I'm going between 3 or 4 apps. And sometimes I can't remember, did I talk to Joe on Grindr? Was it Adam or was it Jack? I mean, I'm going back and forth, and I'm just, sometimes I get on.
Seriously?
Confused. Yeah.
Wow, I'm different.
Well, you have a remember, you're the one with an encyclopedic photographic memory. The only thing you don't bring to the table is probably a spreadsheet with the names.
Yet.
Well, I haven't seen that spreadsheet yet. And by the way, folks, I don't use one, just in case you're wondering. But you know what? How do you react to a like? When you get a like, what goes through your mind when somebody gives you a little whatever it is in that particular,
like a woof?
A woof.
If we're talking about scruff,
or a little.
Well,
handle,
first of all,
little, yeah.
I have a question for you to throw back at you before I answer that question. Is what are your top 5 apps, and why do you like them?
Well, I'll talk to the ones I use the most, I guess, are Grindr, Adam. I've discovered Daddy Hunt.
All right, go on.
But the trouble is,
no, that's 3.
That's
you need
3.
To give me 2 more.
I don't really have a whole lot more.
That's it.
I look at Squirt once in a while, but it's empty. I had Jacked on my thing. I mean, I had Jacked on my. I basically resurrected it the other day. It's dead. There's no names on there that nobody. I really don't have a lot of apps that I go to.
Not resurrect Jack.
Gay.com doesn't exist anymore.
If y'all are listening,
that's an old one. That one I forgot to mention. Gay.com.
I don't even know what that is, but
see, now that was one of the very first apps, and actually that one did have some pictures on it.
Is that the OG?
Gay.com.
Yeah.
But if you Google gay.com now, you don't get to gay.com.
Well, this is what you're gonna have me doing.
Uh-oh. We have a laptop here, folks. Don't screw this up, Alex. We don't want to. So what is it you like? I don't know about you. I love getting a like. Don't you love getting a like?
Los Angeles LGBT Center.
Yes, that's not gay.com.
Well, that's what he has resolved to. Well, things have changed.
Yes, they have. And maybe that's where gay.com originated. Who knows?
Well,
I don't know.
But it's not the same today.
Yeah, and if you did, but you know what? Internet Relay Chat, I think, is still in existence. Now, I won't tell you the channels that I used to like to visit.
Is that like AOL?
Well, it's in the same era. Yes, AOL goes back to the mid-'90s, folks, in case anybody has an AOL. I don't think anybody has an AOL address anymore. That's probably... So why do we keep going back to these apps? What is the attraction of these apps? What are your top 5?
Well, as you all know,
maybe you should give me your top 3.
I have gripes with Grindr, so no shade and sorry to anyone who uses Grindr. I'm just sorry as a security professional and who's someone who takes my privacy very seriously. Not that privacy is relevant.
Look, if you're out there talking on an app,
forget
your privacy.
For sure.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my master's, I actually wrote a whole dissertation about this.
Uh-oh.
My focus was on privacy. So
we'll put that on the web for you to read when you have some time, folks.
It's ironic because I put my lit review on my blog.
So is Grindr a like, and what are the other 4?
No, Grindr is a complete no.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just put it out there for everyone. This is gonna be a throwout. So no. So if you're all like, why is Grindr not in the top 5? Keep it stepping, girls. Sorry. No to Grindr. Next. So my top 5. it's gonna be I'm gonna have to give it up to the OGs. I'm gonna have to give it up to
The OGs?
the OGs, the old school, the girls that have not left being a web app because they have not evolved and they're still in the grassroots stage. I'm gonna have to give it to Squirt as my number one. Scruff.
Yeah.
You know, good old American.
Yes, I like Scruff.
America.
Yeah.
Eagle sound. Good old Scruff. I'm gonna have to give it to Sniffies.
You have to pay for that one.
No.
Well, okay, maybe I hit the wrong button. Okay,
No.
go ahead.
You notice I'm shutting out all the cruising girls. These are cruising apps. I would say these are more cruising apps than they're hookup apps.
Well, cruising hookups, what is the difference? Come on.
Okay, okay.
All right, you're cruising, you're hooking up. So what's number 4 and 5?
Number 4 and 5 will have to be Dudes Nudes.
Oh boy, there's one I might have been on once. Okay.
Dudes Nudes and then Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
Though Adam is for the internationally desperate, but that's a whole other podcast.
Oh yeah, no.
So
the people in Africa reach you on Adam, don't they?
I mean,
we could have a relationship. I'm only 9,000 miles away.
You know the stereotype of I'm an African prince and I just need a few dollars to help me.
You've talked to the African prince? Oh, golly.
That's when I think of Adam, that's what I think about. I think about them, all the African prince out there. Shout out to the African princes.
I was approached by a prince from Dubai on Adam, believe it or not.
Ooh.
I was about to have a first class seat on Emirates, courtesy of the Emirate of Dubai or whatever they call them, until I realized that picture is manufactured. I don't think that was a real person.
My church voice. Well. Tell us.
Yeah, there's a lot of hokiness and bullshit and scamming on these things too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's something else we should talk about: is how do you recognize the bullshit? How do you recognize the people that are on there And I noticed lately. Not to say that those are the wrong type of people, but a certain race has been hitting me up, wanting me to invest money, and I get very, very sensitive right away. And usually, the first question is, "What do you do for a living?" That's usually and then.
No idea what was going on, some technical issues, but where we left off was Norm was asking, what do you, he's just been reached out by some very, shady people.
When you get asked, what do you do for a living? That really isn't a question that, depending on how early it is, if it's after 10 minutes, I can see that as a valid question.
Yeah.
If it's question number 2 or 3, the warning lights should be going on, the bells should be ringing.
Well, I was thinking to myself that these days, the girlies aren't, even doing that. They're even waiting longer.
Yes.
They're in for the long game.
Yes, they are. You're right. You're absolutely. They'll wait for like 2 weeks.
They're in for the long game.
I had that happen the other day, and then all of a sudden I get a barrage of investment ideas, and you should put money into this and that, and I've made all kinds of money in the last three days.
Yeah.
And of course, then I'm thinking, really? And I think, okay, I think we're going to hit the B channel here, block, which I do. And you know what? It starts out as, hey, maybe this guy is legit. But you know what? You really have to have the bullshit radar up these days for this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. There is actually a term for this.
Oh.
And it's called honeypotting.
Honey what?
Honeypotting.
Honeypotting.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a boomer, as a daddy, I have learned a new word today. Honeypotting.
It is actually a very common cybersecurity term.
Oh.
It's basically when they they basically put themselves out there. They've basically, I'm this vixen, I'm the hot guy, I'm the guy you're talking to online.
Not impressed.
The pretty eyes and the six pack.
No, that definitely is a warning light already.
2 weeks in, 1 month in, then they're like, oh, You know, do you have a crypto wallet? Do you
Yeah.
want to invest in this?
Yeah.
It's like they're sweetening the deal.
Or my grandmother died and I need money for her funeral. You ever had that one?
No.
Oh. Needless to say, I did not contribute, but I did send condolences. Well, we do have to be polite when we're online, don't we?
I mean, I think the status quo of everyday society does not go out the window. You shouldn't throw it out the window, even because you're speaking to someone online. If anything, it should still remain, because you have intentions, or this is how you know if you have intentions to grow and have a meaningful relationship with someone that is beyond hi, how are you,
Well,
pics.
Hey, listen, if it goes beyond that and you
What are you
start
looking
clicking,
for?
if you click with somebody
Uh-huh.
and what they're looking for, and you decide to answer that question, and it happens to be the same thing they are, maybe there's a good vibe there, and that's a great feeling, right?
Well, if there's a good vibe there, and this is where I'm going to answer your question now, that I've gotten that off my system. But I'm not getting off my system. I was talking
What was
about,
my question again? What was the worst question?
What's the worst question?
Yeah. By
By
the way, he wouldn't tell me what the worst question
and I
was
told
the other
you
day.
what my top apps are. So now I'm gonna. And this is just for me as a son looking for daddies. This is me.
Looking for daddies.
Yeah.
What's the worst question?
Those are my apps. So just so you
let
know.
me tell you what I think it is.
What?
Can I buy you something or help you do something financially?
Huh?
Do you resent that sort of thing? Do you get that?
No.
Okay.
But I think it's because I'm not of a particular age. Maybe.
But there are a lot of daddies. There are a lot of daddies that want to shed money out for young boys.
Oh, but that's not how it comes off to me. It's presented to me is, hey, are you into? Just picture it. Picture it in the
old
words
man.
of like
That's
Blanche.
fine. I've been called an old man, even though
Cicely.
I'm mature and I look younger now than I did 5 years ago. But that aside, go ahead.
Sorry, no, it wasn't Blanche. It was Sophie. Yeah, Sophie. Picture it, Cicely.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like me. Picture it. I'm just here minding my own damn business, and then all of a sudden, some guy comes up to me and is like, "Are you?" Sorry, I don't know why I'm doing.
Here
voice,
comes the
but
question, folks.
It's like, "Are you into older?" Yeah, I'm into older. You know, click, clack, clack. You know,
That question
tapping
is
away.
your worst favorite question?
No, it's
Oh.
not. And then he's like, I can be generous.
Oh. That's not a question.
It's not a question,
But you hate that.
but
you
they
hate
put
that
a
line.
question mark at the end of it.
And the assumption is you're there looking for money and nothing else. And that's legit. That's
Thank
wait a
you.
minute. That's assuming, hey, maybe this young guy really does like older people.
Do I look like I have an OnlyFans?
And might really be interested in you because of who you are. And then that would be fantastic.
It's like I'm like, okay, I guess that's
Well,
nice.
Do you know what I say when I get that question? I get the
Oh, are
question,
you generous?
Yeah, I say I'm very generous, but I don't pay for sex. That usually
Boom.
That usually ends the conversation.
And that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all the kids need to know. I can be generous. What does that mean? Does that mean like you're a Splenda daddy? That just means you're paying for dinner? Or does that mean you're flying me out to Dubai? Like, what does I can be generous mean? Like, because
Well, sometimes they don't even need to ask the question. I got the question the other day, would you buy me an Apple a gift card? There was no value attached to it. I was expected to stop at a store on the way to someplace else and drop it off for them. No assumption that, no concern over that might interfere with my calendar or schedule at the time. No value. I almost wrote back and said, look, come by me. I'll give you $20 cash if that's what you want.
That is your Nigerian prince.
Actually, he was from Nigeria, believe it or not.
No.
He was. And I'll show you his
Stop.
picture
Norm,
after. I'll
stop.
show you the picture afterwards. All right.
I'm sorry for doing that in your ear. Listeners, I am so sorry. The irony.
Well, there are those people out
And
there.
this is why, as a
And
black
you know
person,
what?
I'm going to say stereotypes exist for a reason, but go on.
Well, he may well truly be short of food, and there are some people out there who are. But when you need it,
how are you
when
going
you
to
want
eat with an Apple gift card?
exactly, when you want an Apple gift card, honey, you don't have any problem with what's in your
Gonna
refrigerator.
eat the microchips.
I'll say, honey, I'll get you some for your refrigerator, but not for your internet. Yeah. Anyway.
M1 chips. Yum,
Well,
yum. Crisp, crisp.
This has probably been our most animated session to date, don't you think? This is something that everybody can identify with.
Well,
Would you
I know.
say?
I think so. And here's the thing about it. In the world where we live in now, in the year of our Lord 2024, most of us, if not all of us, who are dating, who are single, are turning to apps, or will be using apps as a gateway in some way, shape, or form.
As a helper.
As a helper.
Yes.
Even if it's not
As a leg up to somebody that might fit, and that we could explore a relationship,
As
a
it
cup of
should
coffee,
be.
as it should. I have a friend that used to say quite often, as it should. He hasn't lately, but that's another issue. But absolutely, that is the way it should be. So before we wrap up, let's talk about what are some tips? What are some things we would suggest to people, including ourselves, that would make the experience of being online even better for people? And to your point earlier, Alex, less waste of time,
Yeah.
because that really is critical.
Understand that what you're doing in an app is similar to real life situations. Yes, it may be virtual, but think of it as you being
Right in front of that person.
right in front of that person.
Excellent.
And what reaction you would expect from that person, and what are the consequences
Yeah.
of your conversation with that person.
Because people do things on apps they wouldn't dare think of doing from a social point of view if
Exactly.
they were in person. That would be rude.
Like someone
You
would
get
be,
somebody throwing at you.
just to be like, hi, and then you don't hear from them for 2 days, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. For 2 days?
Yeah.
Did Prince Charming come and wake you up, Aurora? It's like, bitch, what are you talking about?
So
2 days. You've been sleeping?
So
And
be
if
polite.
you were even tired, like, why bother be on the app and only have the energy to just say one word? Hi.
Well, here's a
It
suggestion.
doesn't make any sense.
Number one, modify your expectations every time you're online.
No. This is where I'm going to give you some pushback, Norm.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. I'm going to give you
Sonny
some
and Daddy don't
pushback
agree here.
Because, no, respect is respect and intention is intention. If you're going to be going on an app, like, at least dedicate some time. And if it's a situation where you've started a conversation with someone, and let's say after 5 minutes, I'm not saying you need to sit there and
By
look
the way,
at the screen.
that is a long conversation in app world.
I'm not saying you need to.
App world.
No, it is though. Ain't it?
You're right.
It is a long.
That's 2 hours of coffee time.
Basically.
Yeah, 5 minutes on a nap is 2 hours in a Starbucks. But your
but I'm
point
just
is,
like saying-
pretend the person is in front of you.
Pretend the person's
they-
in front of you, and if you don't hear anything from them, and like, let's not even say 5. That's my rule of thumb. But let's say 2, because I have the 5 rule of thumb. But that's a whole other conversation. So if someone is like
ignoring you. Yes.
Let's say even 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You can literally, and
I
again,
think
you don't have to be
you're
sitting there.
Well, look,
You
they
don't
might have to
be
go
sitting
off
there.
to the washroom.
You can go off something and do something, come back in 2 minutes. Washroom, take a piss.
Okay, BRB.
Make a drink.
BRB.
Thank you.
Let's use BR. So there's a tip.
Say
BRB.
what happened.
Be polite.
Back in the day,
Be
when we
polite.
were on Xfire, we were on MSN, we were on AOL, we were on Yahoo Messenger. We had the etiquette. When you were having a conversation with someone, you would put on your status, AFK. You would say BRB.
AFK. What's AFK?
Girl, away from keyboard.
Oh.
Maybe that's a gamer term. I don't know. Maybe.
Away from keyboard.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
But you would put it there. But now, And now,
Who uses a keyboard? I just use my voice note. But anyway, that's
and even
fine.
at work.
So the other
But
thing,
I'm not even gonna get
Okay,
into
hon.
that gripe. But the point is,
Got
let
your point.
someone know. But it is
Be
so
polite.
weird. I'm gonna tell you something what happened to
Communicate.
me recently.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a quick anecdote, which solidifies my point. And I think we should stop normalizing. We should stop normalizing
Discourteous
people.
conversation.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We should stop normalizing it.
Discourteous conversation.
So me
Okay.
setting my expectation for what? Using an app as a stepping stone to meet people and have meaningful conversation? Of course. That's what we're all here for. So I'm sorry for the girls who probably will be listening to this and being like, Alexander,
Get to the point. Get to the point.
Well,
I'm producing, remember. Get to the point.
for me, no. It's serious. It's
And I'm
it's
running low
like
on
this.
martini.
I mean, the
Go ahead. Get to your point, please.
it's like this. If you are here and you're having a conversation with me and you're tired, hi, how are you doing? I like your profile. I'm about to head to bed,
Yeah.
but I wanted to pay you a compliment. Have a good night.
Beautiful. That is
Boom.
so beautiful.
Done. You
And if-
don't have to say anything.
And if they want to
more.
hit you back the next morning or vice versa, you can do so.
Beautiful.
And if it happens, hey, there's a maybe a
And
click.
if it doesn't and you hit me up 2 days later,
You know what?
fine. I'll have the assumption you have a life.
I got in a conversation. I forget the app. It's one of 3 or 4 with a very nice looking guy the other day. Actually, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it turns out he said, very nice thing. I wish you were closer. And I said, yeah, I'm in Toronto. And he said, I'm in Cincinnati. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm driving through Cincinnati next month on my way to Tennessee. He said, oh, great. Well, guess what might come from that? Potentially a meetup.
A meetup?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll continue the conversation.
I'm just like, so in summary, Norm, I'm basically just saying, talk to people with the expectation of the context of where you are at, just as how you would if you were in the pub.
I agree.
Just as how you would if you were in the club. Just as how you would if you were IRL. Have a conversation.
Well, I
that
wouldn't
is
necessarily say in the
meaningful,
club.
and that's why, for me,
Yes.
and this is where I'm, going back to my anecdote. I was having a conversation with a guy a few months ago on Sniffies. And the guy said to me, this is last year before we
Sniffies?
went on break.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. And the guy said to
Hey,
me,
some people have certain kinks, and that's one of them. But anyway, go ahead. Carry on.
there's
And
a whole
sniffing.
other podcast.
That's
but
another podcast.
We're going to get back
Kinks.
to that
Kinks. Oh, boy, that's a
in another
podcast.
episode. And the guy said to me, because I deleted him, because I didn't hear from him for 3 days. And he said to me, did I do something to offend you? And I said, no, I just deleted the conversation because I haven't heard from you in 3 days. To which his response was, oh, I run multiple businesses and I'm busy. As if we don't have the same 24 hours in a day. I run multiple businesses.
And what did
I'm
you
busy.
respond to that? NP?
And my response to that was, oh, I didn't take it seriously. In fact, quite the opposite. I actually wasn't taking any offense to it, which is why I deleted you and moved on.
Ooh. Shade, honey, shade.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the other thing you have to do is guard your space, guard who you are.
Exactly. Set up your
And that's-
boundaries.
And that's what you were doing in saying after a few minutes, hey, I didn't hear from this guy. 3 days, in fact.
yeah.
You cut him off. Wait a minute. I don't need to wait for somebody to barge back into my life when they've obviously demonstrated
to what
they're not
end?
interested.
Exactly.
Yeah, for whatever reason. Now, if they had said, excuse me, I'm going to be busy for 3 days. I'll message you in the end of the week. Bingo. You leave them up.
And
Right?
and I know some of you, again, maybe it's listening and you may be like, no, Alex, your expectations are too much. It's too much. You're asking for too much. Cunts. Let me just say something to you right now. What do you think a relationship is? No, just ask yourself, what exactly do you think a relation? And it doesn't have to be a romantic one. It could just be a friendship.
Yes.
What do you think a relationship is?
Do you know, it's funny you mention that because I'm dealing with a friend right now who has basically avoiding me for a few weeks. And I think the question I need to ask him is, what kind of a friendship or relationship do you want?
Exactly.
That is what it really comes down to with every conversation you have. What are you trying to achieve here? And it doesn't have to be a conscious question, but that's really what everybody is asking in their head as they're doing
exactly. And I'm not even asking for a conscious question. I'm just asking for decency.
Yes.
If it's a situation where you are having a conversation with someone, and this is something I don't want to say guilty of. This is something that is a common practice for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on anything online, I could be even just on Messenger, like Apple, iMessage.
People you've talked to before.
I could be on iMessage, like friends.
Yes.
And I will just say, I'm going into a meeting now.
Yep, absolutely.
TTY.
Courtesy, and follow through with what you say you're going to do.
We're having a conversation. It has a natural flow. Great. Something came up. Something is coming up. I'll talk to you later.
Folks,
don't just show up 3 days, sometimes even a week later, and be like, "Hi, sup."
But you know what?
Hi, sup.
I hate sup.
Sup.
Yeah, sup is a.
You can't. You haven't spoken to me in 3 weeks, and you don't even have the common decency to just to have a complete sentence. Bitch.
Well, fine.
Bye.
But you would have deleted that person by then anyway.
I mean, of course.
Yes. So sup would be who. Well, anyway, you know what, folks? There's obviously a lot we can talk about on this topic. Alex, I think we've had more content, more conversation on this topic than anyone we've done so far.
I mean, versus like topic number 1, I don't know.
I don't even remember topic 1. But you know what? We're going to do more of these, folks. We want your input. We want your ideas. And we want to thank you for listening today because we have fun doing this. We're doing it because we want to entertain you. We want to inform you. And when we want to be part of the discussion.
Yeah, and wherever you're listening to this from, are you getting this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify or Discord? We would like feedback.
Yes,
Sound
for
off,
sure.
And let us know, like, what are your gripes with apps? What are the questions that you really hate being posed to you on apps? What are your favorite apps? And if you're someone who you're in a situation where you are online and you're dating or not dating, just looking for community, and you identify as a son or you identify as a daddy, we'd like to especially hear from as to what dating or hookup applications are best for you.
Mm-hmm.
What are you there for, and what do you get out of it?
And what's worked the best too, honey? I want to know where the wins are, honey.
With that being said, yes, as Norm said, please follow our podcast, share it with your friends.
Yep.
Share it with your dog, share it with
people who will listen. And thank you for listening today.